Welcome to In the Zone with Chris Zander, where we talk lifestyle, entrepreneurship, self-care, and much more. So go grab a drink or a snack and come on back because it is now time to get in the zone. My guest today is AMEND Together of YWCA Nashville. Here to represent the organization is John Morris and Garrett Lee. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right.
Good.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, yes. So, John, we'll start with you.
All right.
Can you tell us about your position? What is your position with AMEND?
Yeah, so officially the position is called AMEND Specialist. And so in my role, what I do specifically is I have a couple schools throughout the school year that I go to and meet with the groups of kids, of young boys, about 5 to maybe 30. They could be in school, they could be after school, some even before school, but that's very rare for that one because it's just super early. And so what we do is we have a curriculum where we're just tackling different aspects of maybe the social construct of masculinity, right?
Okay.
With the goal of hopefully planting a seed in some of these young men that helps them be advocates against domestic violence between women and children.
Garrett, how about for you?
Yeah, so I do pretty much the same thing, just in different schools. So I go to other places and talk to different groups of kids about all the same things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll start here.
Okay.
You guys are known for your position with helping young boys and specifically referencing masculinity. I want to talk about toxic versus, I guess, healthy masculinity.
Right.
What is that for those who have no idea what that is?
Right. So like buzzword, right? Toxic has been like the kind of hot word around town when it comes to masculinity, being like things that may not be as, I guess, welcoming in terms of masculinity or things that we have may have embodied that are just unhealthy, right? And so really we don't even kind of entertain the word toxic, right? Because anything can be toxic depending on how much of it is and who you're dealing with, right? So we focus on idea of hitting on points that present healthy masculinity. So when you think of healthy, you're thinking about things that are going to help you grow, things that are going to challenge you. And we go by the 3 C's. So it's challenge, cultivate, and change.
Okay.
Right? And that's kind of like our hitting card that we hold on to. It's like every day with my boys, I ask them, what are the 3 C's? We would do a lesson maybe about, hey, communication. How do you healthily communicate with one another? And maybe you can use that to expound on to what you do at home, how you talk to people in your schools, peers, teachers, things of that nature. And then we come back to the 3 C's when we're done. Like, how do you feel like you were, challenged? Did you cultivate something or did you change? And that's kind of how we roll with that. And so when it comes to the toxic part, I mean, there's obviously things to us specifically maybe that we think like that's toxic, that language is toxic, that action is toxic, that thought is toxic. But then also, okay, well, we know that. We kind of hear that a lot. So let's figure out how we make something healthy. And so there's some things that you kind of have to call out on the spot. And there's some things you kind of like, okay, let's challenge that. You're talking about X, Y, Z. What does that mean? Or what does that mean to you? Or how does that relate to what we're doing today? And we go from there.
I like that because it's teaching them at a young age to be in tune with kind of their emotions, right?
Yeah.
And why they say what they say and kind of not just saying it and that is what it is. I'm curious to know for you, Garrett, like what have you found that has been positive with that reinforcement with working with the youngsters?
I think, just giving them that positive reinforcement, I think is really powerful for them. I think all 3 of us know it's hard to be a middle school guy. Like it's hard to go through, that phase of growing up. Because there's just a lot going on, whether it's like changes in body, changes in hormones, but also like socially, there's just a lot going on, whether it's like trying to fit in and like realizing that like, everyone's trying to fit in. And if everyone's trying to fit in, no one fits in.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, it's like going through the, being socialized to act, as a man or whatever, right? Whatever that means. And all of these stereotypes, right? So for me, I guess just like I said, just giving them that positive reinforcement. And my kind of big thing is that there's no one way to be a man. Like masculinity looks different for everyone. I mean, like the 3 of us are a good testament to that, right? Yeah. Like we're all 3 completely different people. Have like completely different lives, look completely different, right? So there's not like one perfect way to be a man. That just doesn't exist. And so that's kind of my the high point that I try to hit a lot.
So breaking the stereotypes, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I'm curious to know too, with young, I guess working with people who are so young, do you find they are aware of some of the stereotypes being that young?
Yeah, I think now, like, this just generation in general has so much information and so much in front of them right now that they kind of just soak up a lot. And so they have, yeah, it's information. It's not knowledge yet. It's information though. So they have an idea of what, kind of like when we talk about being a man, they're quick to throw out the simples, work hard, provide for a family, wife, kids, whatever it may be. Usually it's kind of like how it goes, how it starts. And that's like the calling card for a while. And so it's kind of, it's interesting to see them being so young and being kids, because they act like kids, but they have so much information. Like you'll hear them talking about something like, there's no way in middle school my brain even processed that yet, And so, but it's the information that they have, right? It wasn't just Pokemon and video games for them. That still exists very much, but now it's whatever happened on the news, social media for them. Obviously, that they are the big social media generation, and so between TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, whatever they may have, they can see anything. And so you kind of see that play a role into how these conversations kind of delve and flesh out a little bit.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I want to make a transition.
Okay.
I'm curious to know for you guys, you guys also focus on teaching these young men how to treat women, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why is that so important? And specifically teaching these young boys that at a young age, why is that important?
I would say because it's just one, it's just very prevalent in the time that we live in, right? The domestic violence rate, especially in Tennessee, is abundantly high, and so there's small things that kind of build up and lead to those actions, right? And so it can be as simple as the little play in the hallway, and not knowing, hey, you are a little stronger, you're a little bigger, and it's that one time you get pushed a little too hard and you just react. Next thing you know, this young lady may be hurt, crying, and the situation's out of hand, right? And so, and I kind of bring it back to it's just a person thing in general, right? Like the same thing you wouldn't want happening to you, none of these young women want it to happen to them, right? So,
absolutely.
Like when I have those conversations with the young boys where they're playing, and I'm like, I understand you're joking now, but all it takes is one, the right push, the bad day, and the next thing you know, it's worse than what it needs to be. And this could be for anybody, especially, obviously, when it happens to these young women. It's already prevalent enough. And so I just like to challenge them as, for just the aspect of people. Like, you don't want that for you. They don't want that for them. And I try to make it, the scope usually hits when you say, what if this is your mom, your sister, your cousin, right? But, like, we have to go bigger than that. Like, It doesn't have to stop at just imagining this is your mom that you're hitting. Like, no, this is just another person that absolutely doesn't want to be here, talked to that way, thought of that way, described that way, or talked about, just the things that can go on and carry on in middle school. Mm-hmm. And so I just want them to be aware, because, like, if this is you, like, just think about it. If this is you, simply put the mirror in front of you. If we're talking about you this way, if we're doing this to you, do you still feel accepted, respected, and loved where you're at? And so usually you get the no. It's like, well, okay, now there's the green light. Now let's start working on ways we can change how we behave and think and talk to better help and serve these young women who are already dealing with this.
Yes, absolutely. I'm curious to know, and Garrett, you can answer this for me. Like, I'm curious to know from the different things that these children go through at home, right? Mm-hmm. They carry that with them. Yes. Yeah. And I can ask both of you guys this honestly. Mm-hmm. What do you guys find that they carry most, and specifically when we talk about domestic violence, because some of these kids see that at home. Yeah. What does that look like for them that you found?
Yeah, I think for me, because of the nature of like our group work, so we work in groups, and anytime those groups can be from like as small as like 3 up to like 18 to 20, 25. And so it kind of varies like what we're able to see with each student. So a lot of times we have students that are maybe a bit challenging for us, or students that like can just be really hard to work with. Not because they're flawed, but because, they live in flawed situations, right? Like we're talking about. I think it can be really hard to see like entirely what they're carrying with them, if that makes sense. Like we don't always get to see exactly what's going on. I mean, we can tell something's wrong, I guess. I think a big thing that I see though is just not having a full understanding of the emotions that they feel, and not having a full understanding of how to deal with those emotions. which, you have to understand them fully before you can like actually deal with them, So that's kind of the big thing that I see. I don't know about you though.
No, I agree. Like this, the expression of what they're feeling. Like, we do have a part of our curriculum where we kind of go through words that expound on an emotion. So like, yeah, it's angry, but is it angry out of frustration? Is it confusion? Things of that nature. And so it's like connecting those dots kind of help with that. And sometimes it helps us figure out what they're bringing from home. Because sometimes you might just hear them say it like, oh man, this is happening at my house, or this is how it was at my house. And so like, okay, this is where this comes from. That's where their nature comes from. And so you got to combat like this hour that we may have with them to the hours plus they have at home when they see these things. And so kind of helping them break that mode of how they express themselves is kind of where you kind of draw that line a little bit. And it's hard to do even within a school year, but hopefully like, just a seed planted, hopefully.
Yeah. And that goes into the stereotypes too, right? That's a big stereotype for men is that, only expressing the emotions that are violent in nature. And that kind of boils down to the work that we do, right? With the whole violence against women thing, right? But yeah, emotions are so incredibly complicated. And kind of like John was saying, that lesson that we have about emotions, it's like, there's anger and sadness and joy and love, sure. But like within the anger, what is there? Like I like to talk about jealousy a lot because that's such a complex emotion. And it's one that I think we kind of demonize a lot. Yeah. But it's, it's a natural part of life, right? It's a natural part of relationships. But there can be confusion in jealousy. There can be love in jealousy. There can be anger. There can be sadness. Yeah, there can even be a little bit of joy too. Right. Like emotions are just so complicated, right? And so these kids don't understand that, and like I barely understand that. Like it's something that I'm working on.
We all, right?
Absolutely,
every day.
Absolutely.
So I'm curious to know as well with the stereotypes. I'm gonna go back there just a little bit. I like that you guys work with all students, but what I notice, you guys work predominantly with students who are minorities. Why do you think that's so important in building minority success and building self-esteem, specifically with minority students? Oftentimes, they are underprivileged, right? But why is that so important for you guys?
I think, honestly, it's just kind of like the representation that we see. So it's like, it's not even like almost like, hey, we only want you guys. But, I mean, they're here. That's just kind of what you see in your schools and your clubs. And so knowing that, though, obviously knowing that in the background, it's like, man, yeah, I really want you to get it because it's already so much on you for if you don't get it. It's kind of set up for you not to get it in the real world. And so if we get just a piece of you together before you get out here and have these extra challenges, now you have a way to process your thinking, control your tongue a little bit, process your emotions a little bit better, have dealing with conflict, whether you need to resolve it or just step away from it, then maybe as you get out here and you take on the challenges that are already coming with you for being in the position that you are, not of your own fault, then maybe it's just a piece of, just an avenue for you to have some more success. And then not only for yourself, for those who are around you, who come after you, and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like trying to break systemic issues, you know? Like, whether it's like the school to prison pipeline or just stuff like that, right? It's like, research shows that like even just having one trusted adult in your life can like do numbers for like how much I cannot talk, goodness gracious, how much more set up for success you are in the future. And so whether it's systemic issues like that or even just showing these kids that like someone does care about them, because like we kind of touched on earlier, like a lot of these kids are coming from homes that like are really tough, right? Whether it's children of divorce or domestic violence or addiction, right? In the home, like all of these really, really hard things, right? Really, really hard things. So yeah, just being someone to show them some love, and help them show themselves some love too.
Absolutely. I love that because oftentimes when they're not illustrated love, or maybe they don't receive it at home or whatever the case may be, it's hard to know what self-love looks like. Yeah. And it's hard to know what self-esteem looks like because no one's taught you that, right? I want to dive into you guys more. It takes a special kind of heart to work with students, right? Yeah. And this talking to you now. You're like smiling and you just like, I feel it, right? What is that? Where did that stem from?
I think honestly, it took me seeing somebody like me for one. And it means it's socially and actually physically seeing another man who looks like me doing something like this. But I think, man, just like what Garrett said, being able to just give a piece of love to someone, like I don't necessarily need anything from them. I just want to give them as much as I got while I can give it to them. And hopefully, like I said, hopefully, prayerfully, all those different things, like it lands. And so they can be this to somebody else, whether they take a position like this or not, whether it's just in a conversation like, this conversation is not going as swimmingly as I thought. It's not as healthy as I thought over here. Let me try to challenge this. Sometimes you can stay in it and work it out. Sometimes you might need to step back and just kind of let it do what it does. But yeah, man, I do find joy knowing that I have the opportunity, the privilege to really be something for them, someone for them if they need it. Like if it's just, hey, they don't want to have a conversation yet, they just need a hug for the day and just want to hang out, love it. We want to go shoot hoops, love it. If you really want to dive into a topic and really try to get some understanding, love it. You can text me after, we can figure it out. And so it did take seeing somebody like me in some shape, form, or fashion, trying to just pour into myself, and then just I can say I'm happy to say my family, getting the family plays a role into it. My family's like that. Like, man, if you can do something for somebody, just do a little.
Absolutely.
And so it's a privilege to do so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. For me, I studied social work in college, and so that was kind of my path there. And it wasn't until I started studying social work, so kind of to touch on the family thing, it wasn't until I started studying social work that I realized my mom does the work of a social worker, or she is a social worker, not by degree, but by profession. My grandfather was a social worker, again, not by degree, but by the work he was doing. And so like, I kind of started to realize as I started to study this, like, man, this is like kind of how I'm bred. I'm bred to care for others. And to me, that's kind of like my most important thing in life. Like other than, you can talk about what the whole purpose of this thing is. But for me, it's just to show some love to other people, show some care to other people. And I think that definitely boils over into what I do for work. And so once I started studying social work, I guess I should talk about the reason why I started studying social work. And that was just because, like I said earlier, it's hard to be a middle school guy, So I knew I wanted to work with young men, like as soon as I got into the field. And so, I interned with AMEND through college and then got hired full-time afterwards. And it's a big reason why I love doing this work is because and I think we kind of talked about this beforehand, but I love to be a kid. I love like tapping into my inner child, and I just love being a little goofy kid.
Okay, let me ask you. We're gonna go here.
Yeah.
So, what is the job like being a kid? Like, how are you guys able to be a kid again in your positions?
You want me to start?
Go ahead. Yeah, start them off.
Man, you just get to goof off. I mean, like I goof off with kids all the time, make jokes with them. They'll make fun of me. I gotta make fun of them a little bit, not in a way that's harmful. Right. Out of love. But like, it's just you get to just like goof off. We do like all kinds of different activities, which are fun. Like we've got this one activity that we have this like. We set up a bunch of cups in the middle of the floor and we like blindfold the students and do it like a communication cup maze. Like got to have the other students like tell them how to get through. And that always goes fun, right? That's a great example of how we can just like have fun. We can like kind of mess with the students a little bit, tell them like which way to go. And anyway. Just, man, it's just goofing off, right? It's like you got to really touch into that inner child. Cause I think as we get older, we start to lose that. And so I think getting to be around kids kind of reminds you of what it's like to be a kid, and not to be all Peter Pan, but like I think being a kid is like the holiest thing that you could possibly do.
It is.
It's so pure and loving, and that's all I can really say.
No, that's true. I think that's exactly it, because like it's always one moment when it's just like everything else doesn't matter. Like, just enjoy what's happening in this little moment. Obviously within reason, because there's school and stuff happening. But it's definitely like they just have a moment where it's like they're getting it, and whether they're like engaged, fully engaged, or they're kind of like not really engaged, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, let's do this. Yeah, and everything's out the window. Because I mean, think about it. Like we've all been there. You're in school. You're in there just sitting and listening for 8 hours of your day. And I mean, that's a lot for a young kid. And then to go home, you might not have time to really get to be free and express, whether through a video game or outside. Like outside, does the outside even exist anymore for kids? I don't know. And so we try to, again, as much as we want to make sure that we are pouring something into them, we want them to enjoy just the time that they have. Like, let's separate yourself from the school thing real quick. And it's worked out for us so far because, hey, whether it's a day we just need to goof off for them or a day we, get into it for like maybe 30 minutes and the last 30 minutes, let's just relax and ball out. Let's play Minecraft. Let's get a fidget or something. They've been doing the shadow box thing lately. Like, let's play around. Whatever you guys do, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it's good for them to see that too, to know like, all the adults in their life aren't going to be as serious or harsh or that stuff on them too.
Yeah.
So, because that's kind of how they take it a little bit when it's correction and stuff like that.
I've got a great example of that.
Yeah.
I was in a high school one day, and I think it was right before Thanksgiving. I was like, okay, it's like kind of that week. I was like, we're gonna hang out a little bit, and I just like had some coloring sheets that I had taken to an elementary school before. And I got to the high school. I was talking to my students. I was like, all right, we're not going to do much today. We can hang out, we can talk. I've got some coloring sheets, and every single one of those high school boys wanted to color.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, you wouldn't think that like high school guys would want to color, but every single one of them was like they were, just like laser focused on these coloring sheets, And I feel like that's a great example of like, we're socialized as to kind of bring it back to this, like we're socialized as men to be these like big, strong, tough people, and it's like we're all children. We are all children,
Yeah.
And also too, oftentimes as men, people don't ask you how you're feeling.
Yep.
They don't check in with you, right?
Yeah. Questions don't come.
It just doesn't happen. So when you're drawing or coloring, that's that one moment where you can just relax and chill out.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to be in your mind into it. You don't have to worry about any of that.
Right.
I'm curious to know, how has working with young children and adolescent people, how has that helped you personally?
Patience is for sure. Communication, learning how to just the different ways to communicate, like tone, maybe kind of just figuring out that I don't know, maybe measurement of how you kind of your tone needs to be with them. And so thinking about that outside of them. And probably for me, for sure, organization. You gotta have it clear cut for these kids for sure. Or every day is gonna be a goof all day. And we can't have every day like that. But I think those are the big three I think that have challenged me and also helped me grow to do, things outside of that. For sure.
Yeah, patience is a big one. I'm a pretty impatient guy. I'm like patiently impatient. I guess.
I'm with that.
I don't even know what that means, but it sounds
good.
Sounds great.
We're here together.
Yeah, no, I'm like, so I feel like I've learned a lot of patience, for sure, and communication too. Like all the things John said, and again, to beat a dead horse, like I'm able to be a kid. I'm able to goof off. I'm able to have fun, which is like not something that a lot of people can do at work. But I've also just like learned a lot about myself. And that's kind of really all my brain's letting me think of right now. But just learn a lot about myself, patience, communication. Yeah.
The art of letting go, if you will.
Oh, that's a great
one.
one.
Stuff. Yeah, that's exactly what I think of when I think about kind of our role and what we get to do. We just kind of get to let some stuff go, kind of be in a moment that's, again, like the same way like with the coloring sheets. They got into that zone and just was nothing else. Sometimes, regardless if we're still doing curriculum or if we're hanging out, in any setting, there's always a moment just to like let go and like, man, enjoy this. Yeah. And then we get back to the real world, I guess.
Yeah. And flexibility too. That's a big one. Yeah. Learning to be flexible and being able to think on my toes and being able to adapt to like, whatever these kids need. Cause that's a big part of it too, is like you have to meet the kids where they're at. Can't really go in with expectations like, this thing is going to go this way and these kids are going to learn this and this and this.
Every day.
It's like, that's just like not true.
Yeah.
It's just not how it works.
I'm curious to know, you guys obviously see a lot with the kids, right? And you are able to apply, I guess, pretty much apply the things that you learn from them to yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just curious to know from an intuitive space and looking deep within, how have you noticed that there were things you needed as a child that you're learning that you're giving to these children?
Oh, that's a deep one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Hold on, give me a
I'll go first.
Yeah.
Emotions, man. And we've kind of talked about that a lot, but yeah, that's been a big one for me, is like realizing the depth of my emotions. I've always been a pretty emotional guy. You know, if you're into astrology, I'm a Cancer, if that means anything to you.
Oh,
So,
yes.
yeah. So,
yeah.
but I've always been, and I have a Scorpio moon, so I'm a double water sign.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know anything about astrology. I just know that that's what, anyway.
We spent time learning that.
Yeah. So, so I'm a pretty emotional guy, you know, and I always have been. I've always been like pretty in touch with my emotions, but like I didn't realize how much more like I could learn about my emotions and like through the kids too. Cause like I'm seeing everything that, you know, I'm seeing all the things that they are dealing with.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I literally dealt with all these things, you know, like I have been through this phase, and it's kind of like that healing the inner child type of thing. And yeah, I'm able to kind of give them what I maybe didn't have when I was that age. And you know, I think all of us could have used someone at like 13 to be like, hey, how are you actually feeling? Like, what's going on? Like, tell me what you're feeling, you know, like, what do you think about this? Like, why did you react this way? Not in a like, oh, you're in trouble, you know, like I've had, you know, I've had a couple kids in a couple different groups that have like gotten into fights and, you know, had a couple students get expelled. Right. And it's not because they're at fault. Right. It's because they have a lot of things that are going on in their lives, right, that they don't know how to like deal with effectively, right? And so like just someone being there to be like, hey, like what's going on? Like you're not in trouble. I just want you to talk to me. Like why? Yeah. What in your brain made you react this way? You know? And so I think that for me personally, that's been like pretty healing in a way.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, kind of helped me learn a lot about my own emotions and how I deal with how I react to certain situations and feelings and stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How about for you, John?
Yeah, I think I piggyback off that. Kind of like maybe where I learned where I'm probably more sensitive than I am just emotional in terms of expression. Like I'll feel a lot, but it won't show because either
What sign are you?
I'm a Pisces.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, I feel a lot, but I'm just gonna, you know, we're gonna mosey on. And you know, if we can address it, maybe, but like again, like you said, never really getting asked questions. So, like I mean, no one cares. Things happen. No one's asking a question. I guess the show goes on, if you will. And so when I see that happening with the kids, I'm like, I would do that. I did that a lot. And so you kind of get that opportunity to be like, I think though, let me ask you about it. Let's you know. What got you to this point? And so the questions really matter. Like when you said that hit real deep. Like it's just no one asks, you know. And so when you're not asked, you know, no one's asking you why you're doing what you're doing. They're just seeing the reaction, you know. Which like most scenarios, it's like, well, all this happened prior to. Now I'm not saying that this is right by any means, but this happened too, and now I'm left to just deal with the result of accumulation of things or accumulation of thoughts and not knowing how to do these things. And so when we get to ask them these different questions due to just seeing, they're kind of reading their energy as they walk into the room, or the curriculum opens them up a little bit. It's like, okay, so let's kind of like dig a little deeper. And, you know, you can only go so far sometimes, but
yeah,
it's just opportunity to give, you know, put the hand out, like, hey, the hand is here always. And so I think we do a good job of both that, like telling the kids, like, hey, man, outside of this, before this, let us know. We can't be your best friend, but we can be somebody. And so I think that's probably one of the biggest things. Just seeing, when you see a little bit of yourself, good, bad, or indifferent in some of these kids, it's like, okay, let's kind of either tap into that a little bit more. Let's dig in a little deeper of that. Because, I mean, as much as you're helping them, it's helping you as well.
Absolutely.
So we're giving. That's one thing I love about it. Like, as much as I'm giving, I'm getting. And so it's awesome to kind of see that, or kind of have that revelation every so often.
I love that. So both of you are able to be self-aware and help them be self-aware because not only are you helping them, they're helping you so that you can help them, right? Absolutely. So it's I guess it's like a double-double.
Yeah. You know, like have, glass half full, half empty. You keep pouring into each other,
Yeah,
getting more,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think both of us see a lot of ourselves in a lot of these students, and I've told multiple students that, like, hey, like, I see a lot of myself in you. Like, I know.
Right.
I don't know exactly what you're going through, but I've been through some stuff as well that I can probably relate to you a lot more than you might think.
Yeah.
We may be different ethnicities, different. We may speak different languages, even. Different hair, all the things, right? But we probably relate a lot more than you think we do.
Yeah. And I recently talked on a panel, and that was kind of like an idea we talked about. Like, everyone's bottom line is exactly the same. Like, people want to be heard, cared for, loved, fed, maybe, the basics are there. So yes, we have a bunch of different things that factor how we think about those things or how we receive those things or give them, but we're all here. And so when you kind of get to the off the surface level, get a little deeper and get down to that bottom line, it does help with a lot of that give and take that you deal with.
Absolutely. I want to commend you guys, number one, for being in the positions that you're in. Number one, because that is so vital to the success of this new generation. Oftentimes I'll hear, people who are older than us talk about our generation. But one thing that I do know is we know how to communicate. We know how to be in tune with our emotions. And we have to pay that forward. Because life, like you said, is not easy. And specifically depending on where you grew up, all these different things, right? So I just want to say I commend you guys for that. And oftentimes we hear this term, you're a product of your environment.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you guys agree with that?
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, that's a really big perspective in social work, actually, if I was to get technical.
Go ahead.
It's called a person and environment perspective, which basically means, you're a product of your environment. Like, it's kind of the whole nature versus nurture type of thing. I'm absolutely a nurture guy. Like, you are what your environment makes you to be. Yep. For sure. Yeah, 100% agree.
Until you see something different. Yeah. And so, like, that's the kind of zeal you get in doing something like this, right? Like, okay, some of them, again, the bottom line is there. We're more similar than we are different. And so it's like, no, I know exactly where you're at. Maybe different how you got here than where I got here, but I see that. And so just a little different. See different. Like, a story I saw on I think on a podcast once, a guy was like, all I knew was my neighborhood until I drove out of it. Started seeing, bigger things, bigger houses, different cars. And so I knew there's something more than where I was at. And so I couldn't just do the same things everybody's doing where I was at because I saw something else.
Absolutely. So, and I love that you guys are instilling that in these children, right? Because they need that, right? They really do. Okay, so in closing.
Okay.
Yes.
How can people donate? How can people get involved? What do you guys need? Where can people find you?
So if you go to the YWCA Nashville website, which is ywcanashville.org. It is .org. I think so.
We are an org.
Yeah, we are org. And so there's a link to what the YWCA needs, and then there's our program, AMEND Together, and there's also Girls Inc., our sister program that's been around before us a little bit longer, and they do similar work with young ladies in schools. And so just multiple ways to give, multiple things that you can kind of tap into, whether it's volunteer work, keeping up with programming to support, repost, so people know that we have things going on. And that's probably the best way to reach.
I want you guys to give some advice for people who have a misconception about maybe a Men Together program. What do people need to know about the program? What do people need to know?
Oh, you want me to go first? I don't know.
I got you.
You got me? Thank you. I'll come in after. I'll think of something.
I didn't mean to get deep.
No, you're fine.
That's a good question.
Because one thing we do get confused for is if we are the proper term is pre-intervention.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
They think we're like, hey, like you got a bunch. If you have some students dealing with a lot of difficulties, we're the ones to send them to. And that's not necessarily the case. We don't mind taking those students on because they are students that still need to hear the same message. But we want your best student, your leader, your goofy student, your, all of it. We want all of them because it's just a message that they need to hear in general. So it's not about you're doing bad, let's get them in AMEND. Gotcha. No, it's just hey, this is a message that for young men to be healthy and be better and to help out the young ladies and the women in your area and their community, if you will.
And themselves.
And themselves, right? Yeah, it starts inside, because if you can't do it for yourself, you can't do it for anyone else.
Absolutely.
So we start with them, and hopefully it spreads out to everyone else.
Yeah.
And so we are preventative, not intervention, but we're preventative in terms of domestic violence and abuse.
Yeah, definitely. I'll kind of piggyback off that. Yeah, we're primary prevention is kind of our thing, right? We're not we're not here to like fix your kids, right? Necessarily.
Right.
Like we're here to help them to prevent these things, prevent domestic violence, right? But I think a big thing that I kind of see is like, if we talk about Girls Inc., right, which is a wonderful, wonderful program.
Awesome.
With Girls Inc., their thing is like, we're inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold, right? So they're kind of building them up, right? With Amend, something that I've kind of noticed is that we have to tear things down. Like we're tearing a lot of things down. We're tearing down these stereotypes. We're tearing down like, typical ways that like men are taught to act. I guess that's kind of stereotype, but like, how we're
Social
supposed
walls.
to react. Yeah. Social norms, right? All those things, right? We're tearing all of these things down so we can build up healthy masculinity. So that's a big part of it, is like, we're not necessarily, ending domestic violence. It's a pretty big mission, right? That's very broad. It's a very big thing. And so like at the end of the day, what it boils down to is just like teaching these kids like how to be healthy young men.
Yeah.
And I think that's, to me, in my mind, that's the way that we kind of mitigate domestic violence, is that we just like teach young men how to deal with their emotions, how to, talk to people effectively, how to build healthy relationships, how to do things in a healthy way, right? And that kind of goes into the primary prevention, right? That's how it goes, I guess. But
no, that's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure meeting you guys. For those watching and tuning in, make sure you check out Amend Together. So for you guys watching today, thank you for your time. And until next time.